welcome to the Plot Twist Podcast, episode 33. I am Catherine, coming to you from, not from Berlin, from the north of Germany. Oh goodness, that's rooted deep. We moved about a good half a year ago. So I'm coming to you from the north of Germany, where it is very moody today. So it's a very rainy day. It's a little murky outside, so I apologize if the lighting situation isn't everything it could be, but I was really planning on filming under our chestnut tree again today. Not chestnut, walnut tree again, as it's kind of coming more and more into its own. So it has grown so many more leaves in the 2 weeks or whatever it's been since I last recorded there, and so it's providing so much more shade now. So I was planning on filming there again, but today is the day that we've been waiting for quite a while, because we've been waiting for rain and it was supposed to come and hit us hard, and we really desperately need it. But I'm looking over there because that's where the window front is, but it kept kind of wandering all around us. Like you could see the rain come in and then it made a move and just avoided our, I want to say town where we live, our village, and we could actually see it from the window. We could see it raining in other places, but it never came here. And also, like on this rain radar thing, you could see it just taking the detour in the last possible moment. So and today it's finally arrived here, but that means it's a rainy day. I'm not gonna be able to sit outside. So it isn't too bad. I enjoy myself a good rainy day, especially if it's been so warm for so long. So, well, anyway, Germans like to talk about the weather. So, welcome to the channel. I have a little bit of knitting content for you today because this is a knitting podcast. I can quickly talk about what I'm wearing because I will probably get questions. So, I have not knit this myself. This is store-bought. Also, I don't remember the brand, but this is. So I've tried to figure out this stitch, and I haven't dedicated myself to this enterprise fully, so which is why I haven't really in the end figured it out and written it down so that I could use it on something else. But I mean, you can definitely do that, but it is tricky. I don't know if you can see, but it's a slip stitch affair somehow, and it is tricky figuring it all out because it's slip stitches all over, and I don't know. For some reason, it gives me a little bit of a headache. And then there is this passage, which is the majority. So this is only the collar. And then there is this passage, which is a little bit darker for the majority of the cardigan. And that is, it looks like it's the reverse, but it isn't. At first glance, I feel like it looks like a positive and a negative, but that's not what it is, which makes it even more complicated for me. I'll figure it out eventually, but, well, for now, no, I have not knit this cardigan, sadly. But I love it. I throw it on whenever I need something extra, but not too warm. So exactly like today. What else? I think I can dive right in to my, oh no, I will not yet dive into my work in progress, because I don't have any finished objects for you today. I just have been working monogamously on one thing, and that's what I'm going to show you in a second. But I just wanted to say, so obviously today I'm back with an English episode, and if you're new or newer to the channel, last week I put up a German episode, and that was a sort of a review of the first quarter of this year in terms of what I knit in the first quarter of 2024. And I'm now planning on doing one of these videos for every quarter. So I will come to you with a German episode about 4 times a year, and all the other episodes, which I am now filming on a sort of weekly basis, will all be in English just like they used to be. So I have been very pleasantly surprised, however, with how much attention the German video got, because I really didn't see that coming. I thought it would get less or fewer viewers than my other videos, because I figured the people that somehow follow my channel are mostly English speaking. And I don't know what happened there. And it's that video of mine that is doing best. That has been doing best of all of my videos so far. So I don't know if it's just the algorithm that happened to work in my favor, or it's the fact that there are obviously fewer German speaking knitting podcasts out there as opposed to English speaking, but there are a lot of German knitting podcasts out there. It's not like there's only a handful. Or what it's been, I don't know. Also, it doesn't matter, but it's a video that for my standard on my little channel did exceptionally well. So thank you to everyone that's tuned in and actually watched it and given it a thumbs up. So that obviously helps. And yeah, that was a lot of fun. I felt unexpectedly awkward filming it because just what it does to switch a language, right? And it's my mother tongue, so it's not like that's a problem, but it's just I'm used to sitting in front of this camera in an empty room talking to myself now in English. But I hadn't recorded a video in German, and it just feels very awkward in the beginning. And I know that feeling now, it was familiar in a way, but it was also strange to see that happening in my own language, where I just assumed I would be so much more at ease. Not more in the sense of I'm not at ease now, I am, but I just assumed it would come more naturally to me, and it didn't, which is so interesting. Anyway, so it was a fun video to record, and I'm sorry for the traffic going by, and I'm going to record them on a quarterly basis. Okay, and now onto my work in progress, but I'm in the middle of a row. I didn't used to be. Okay, so here's the story. Because I was so well prepared, sitting down to record, I made sure last night to stop at the end of row or beginning of row, so that I would be able, let me finish as I talk, so that I would be able and just pick this project up and show it to you and talk to you about it today when I record. And I did, and so because this is now the second time that I'm recording this episode, because the first time around there was a problem with the microphone somehow, and it made weird noises, which I wouldn't have been able to edit out. I hope it doesn't happen now, microphone. So I hope this video is going to be okay. Fingers crossed for that. But or in Germany you would press your thumbs. But okay. Anyway, so I was there. I was prepared, and then I continued on knitting throughout the episode towards the end when I talked about something else, and that left me in the middle of row. And when I sat down to edit immediately, because I wanted to edit before and put the video up before I go back to kindergarten to pick up my kids. That's not going to happen now, but yeah, I found out that the video wasn't going to be, that I wasn't going to be able to use it, and had to come back over here. Oh, hold on, what is this? And sit back down to record another time. And that is why I am unprepared now, which kind of stinks. But anyway, I can quickly show you the project in question as good as I can. I'm going to show you the project again. But this is my habitation throw. And habitation is right. This is my habitation throw. It's a pattern by Helen Stewart, and you can find the link to my Ravelry page, and thereby also to the pattern, and to everything else, like ways to contact me, where to find me on Instagram, and blah blah blah, on in the description box just below this video, right? Yeah, and that's where you can find all the info. But there isn't a whole lot of information for this project other than this is the pattern link, because there is no, I have no yarn details on my Ravelry page because this is a wholly scrappy project. I'm knitting this on a 3.5 millimeter needle. This is a Knit Pro Zing, a fixed Knit Pro Zing, which is really perfect for this project. I really like those needles. It's just that when the project is so scrunched up, which I love, I would love for it to be even more fabric so that it's completely scrunched up. But then you have to pay a little bit of a little bit of attention so that it doesn't slide off your needles. Needle stoppers would be a good idea. But I usually put my yarn back in a little skein and put it up on the top. You know what I mean? So the yarn that I'm currently using or that I'm going to be using next, I will use that as a sort of needle stopper. I don't know if that makes any sense to you, but it does to me. But yeah, anyway, so that is the project that I'm currently working on, and I have been working on it monogamously, really, which is why it's grown so much. I don't know if it looks like that, but it has grown a lot, and I cannot tell you how many stitches are now on my needles, but it's gotten to be quite a lot, like a couple hundred. It takes me, I don't know, about 10 minutes to get through one row. Not round, but row. I haven't stopped it in a few days, but it was like almost 10 minutes, so now it should be about 10 minutes, which isn't unheard of, but it just goes to say that it's a lot of stitches on there. Oh man, there's a little hiccup with my yarn overs that I just knit the row before. And so yeah, this is my over and over scrappy project. So I pulled out all of my leftovers and partial skeins that I wanted to dip into for this project, and I'm approaching the end of row so I can show you in a bit of a more efficient way. I hope that it's going to be more efficient with everything that's on my needles now. Okay, there you go. I'm going to hold it up for you to see, and then after I'm going to explain. So hold on a second. There you go. There you go. There. And it is quite long. You can kind of measure, because it's going to be a square. How am I going to do this? Please don't slide off. It's about this long. Can you see? That's about the edge. It should be, I think, like 1.10 meters, 1.20 meters. So 110 or 120 centimeters is what I'm guessing. I haven't measured it, but that's what it looks like to me. So that's, well, I would say, yeah, 110, 120 centimeters. And I keep thinking, because now it's about this wide, and I keep thinking it's an okay size, right? If I were to now start decreasing again, because you increase and then you decrease down, and that's how you create the rectangle, not the rectangle. What's it called? The square. Hello. But if I were to do it now, it'd be a decent size. But I keep thinking, I can add in 3 more colors and have another 10 centimeters, something that is even more. Yeah, I can add in 2 colors. This green right here is a 20-gram skein. Okay, so that goes to show just how long the rows have become. And if I add in 2 or 2.5 colors, I'm at roughly 10 centimeters. So I can do that, and then I can decrease down. And once I've done that, I'll think, I can add another 10 centimeters. I can go for another 2-3 colors and make it just that little bit wider. And then when I'm there, I'm going to want to make it just 2 stripes more, and just to keep it growing and growing, because I feel like now I'm at that point where it's just a question of adding a few colors more, and then it's going to be even bigger, and it's going to be so much more comfortable if it's just a little bit more. And I feel like I'm going to keep doing that for 2-3 weeks. That is just what I feel like. Is this ever going to end? Am I ever going to say, okay, no, enough now? Probably at the point where the rows really get so long that it gets annoying, so maybe in a week's time, I'm guessing, is when I'll start decreasing. And yeah, that's that. And if you remember 2 weeks ago or whatever it was, I was a little concerned about the color palette. I'm going to try and show you. I was a little concerned about the color palette because I didn't know if I loved it. And granted, I was up till here by then, And now I hope you can see, that's the color palette so far. There's a lot of, greens in there, and especially greens like this one. I have another one like this. A green that I wouldn't use in anything else really but a blanket, because it's not a color that suits me. And then there's browns and like yellowy tones and yellows and pinks, but that also kind of adds up to browns, and that color that I definitely would not put in a garment for me, because that washes me out entirely. And all sorts of, not all sorts of, but like this sort of green, that was that was a blend right there, gray green color. So there's colors in there that I wouldn't, also like this one is pretty, but I wouldn't put it in a garment for me, that I wouldn't know really what to do with. And now I'm not concerned with the color palette anymore at all, because now I like how they sort of break up the colors that I would usually go for, like this hot pink and this colorway, which is the Comfort colorway by Molly Homespun House, or this which is the main color of my sea glass, Nurture by Homespun House, or I don't know, this, it's also Homespun House. This is the Dementor's Kiss colorway by Molly Homespun House. I'm not sponsored. This is all paid for myself. Or this beautiful, beautiful purple, which is something else that I was gifted. Gorgeous. So I think these colors sort of break up the other tones that are a little more my comfort zone that I had in my stash. And I like how that works, I like these two together. I like how this sort of, for me, a little weird color in a good way, breaks up this or contrasts this color that I really love and have put in at least one garment, maybe even two. So yeah, I like how it does that. Also like this color, gorgeous, but I wouldn't have known what to do with that other than, put it in here. And you know what I figured is these work well together for my taste, because there is no blue in there, with this exception. This purpley blue skein or leftover that created this very thin stripe, that's there, and if you count that is blue as well, but other than these two, because once I was up to here, maybe I thought, oh, I think this does not need any blue. And I'm a blue person. I love blues. And I think I can get away with many blue tones, but so I think this blanket really profits from there being no blue in there, because I have another skein that I wanted to put in, which is really like a very rich sort of denim color, but like a very, very, that it would be very dominant. And I thought, I'm not going to do that because it's going to disturb whatever it is that's going on here. And granted, this is a blue purple, right? This is a blue gray, I feel like, even it's also a green gray, but this is a blue purple for sure. There is blue in here, like also in this one, obviously in these two. Also here, this is also not a yellow green, but a blue green. So there is blue in here, but I didn't want for there to be blue, you know? So I thought I'd better hold off from actual blue mini skeins, and not put them in here, because it would, like I said, it would break up whatever it is that's going on here. And I've always or often stumbled over other podcasters saying they're not really a blue person, and those are often, I think always, people who really love natural earthy tones like beige and all sorts of brown, and like a rusty orange, or all of those colors that are really like maybe fall colors or something, and that I don't ever wear, because I mean, I can wear whatever I want, but I feel they wash me out completely, so my skin tone is a true winter, so I don't do well with like browns and beiges, that's why I wear orange. That's why I don't have it. I don't feel, it's not like I have to stop myself from, knitting with them or wearing them or buying items in that color, because I really feel not drawn to them at all. And there is no judgment in there. If you love those colors, perfect. They look really fun on other people, just not on me. So when other podcasters who really love this color palette say they don't like blues, they don't really work with blues, I always felt, but blue is fun. For me, coming from my perspective, I always felt like, but blue is so gorgeous. But now I get it more, because it doesn't work. I mean, yes, there is all sorts of blue, but it doesn't work with their color palette as much. And now I understand a little bit more where they're coming from. Yeah. Anyway, so this is my habitation throw. This is how far I've gotten. I think last time we spoke on the English podcast, I was down here or up here, somewhere in here. And then when I filmed my German podcast, I may have been somewhere around here. And this is everything I've done in the meantime. So it is a lot. It's a lot of knitting, but it doesn't really look like it. I mean, you cannot even see how wide it is. It doesn't look like it's a long row, but it really is. I love it. It's perfect. It's really a potato chippy knit in a way, because you always want to knit to the next lace portion, and then you want to knit the lace. And it takes a minute, because it's 2 rows that are pretty long, and then the lace takes me a little bit longer yet. And then I want to get started on the garter, and then I'm a little bit into the garter, and I want to get to where, to the next lace portion, and then you're almost at the next color. So I think, okay, I might go to and start the next one. And and you keep going and going. So it's a very fun project, and it's been keeping me company. There was a whole lot going on last week, not all good things, but things that were pretty stressful in our family, and nothing dramatic, but just things that held my attention and that really stressed me out extremely. And that was exactly what I needed. And I can segue right into my current obsessions segment, because yes, plural this week. Let me put on my, as Stephen West says, my yarn necklace, and then I can knit as I talk to you about my current obsessions, because these also kept me company over this week. That was really challenging for me. But let me talk about this yarn necklace for a second, because oh man, I was bought on my shirt. I'm sorry. Because here's the deal. I do not like winding minis. I dislike it very strongly, because I mean, winding yarn isn't my favorite thing to do, but it's okay. You do it, and that's that. But winding minis, is a whole other category of, things to do. It's so frustrating. So incredibly frustrating to me, because you have to set it up and you have to set everything up, and then you have to set everything up for every mini again. So that's the first thing that annoys me. And then you stand there winding your yarn and you really try to do a good job, and then you take your mini skein off that thingy and off the ball winder, and it's floppy right there and then. No matter how good of a job you did and how perfectly you tried to do it, it is floppy. It's kind of collapses in on itself. It sort of deflates, and I'm not going to pull from the outside because I don't want this tiny ball dancing around. So if I'm going to pull from the inside, however, it's going to collapse completely after just a half an hour. So that isn't fun. You have this tiny thing that almost comes undone immediately because like it isn't perfectly flat on the top and bottom, but it is immediately a sort of a cone shape. And I seriously considered hiring my sons to do it. They're 6 and 8, and they have figured that I dislike winding yarn, and they're good at it. They've helped me over the years, so they can do it. They also know how to thread the yarn and everything. They know how to do it. They have understood that there is a sort of a business component there. That I dislike winding mini skeins so much that I might actually pay them 50 cents to do it for me. And I absolutely would, because that's a good trade for me. But also I don't like knitting from mini skein balls. They also annoy me. Like I said, they dance around or they deflate entirely, and then it's just a mess, how do you put that? Like they demand my patience, or they challenge my patience in a very particular way. Like other things just don't. And I don't know. I don't know. Let's try to stay away from that. But so I've decided to not wind minis, and also not to have them be wound. Is that how you say that? Yeah. But I'm going for the good old yarn necklace. That doesn't freak me out at all. I know so many people would be totally freaked out by the looseness of this. I'm not at all. This makes me feel totally comfortable and in charge. Whereas these tiny little yarn balls, I don't know, they're not for me. Anyway, so as I talk about talk you through my current obsessions segment, I will knit on this. But before, because I just see it dangling here, I'm going to show you, whoops, I'm going to have to move the entire thing. My little stitch marker, which my friend Francie, made for me. And I think I got it from her last year, or maybe 2 years ago. I don't know. It doesn't matter. But I put this on here to mark the right side, so I know when to do what. Okay, let me get organized here, and then let's get started. So this week, I don't have a lot of knitting content because I've only been knitting on one thing only, and that's this one. And also there isn't much to say about it except that it's a scrappy project on a 3.5mm needle. But I have been engaging in other things that really have caught my attention, and I want to share them with you. So the one obsession is really, if you've been here before for a few episodes, you will have guessed it. It's called Bridgerton. And I'm going to talk about that first, and then we're going to dive into the other one, which is also not movie related, but related to a show that many of us have loved for quite some time. Anyway, so Bridgerton. It's finally started. I feel very passionately about Bridgerton because I enjoy the show. I enjoy many aspects of the show. I think it's just very fun. It's a fantasy, but also I love the colors and the costumes and the wit, and I don't know. It's just a fun show. And so season 3 was supposed to drop much earlier, but it was detained because detained is that the word? It was let's just say detained because Shonda thought it was too dark, right? And then they had to reshoot some parts of it. So that's why it dropped so much later. But now it does. And can I just say, I don't like the fact that it's coming in 2 books, just like with The Crown. I think it's a thing that Netflix now does, obviously, so that you pay for 2 months. But what, and that annoys me. But what annoys me more is that we go back to a situation in which I am told when I can watch a show or not, just like earlier. I mean, obviously, I come from an analog age where you watched, where there was no internet and no Netflix and no nothing, and you watched whatever was on. I mean, TV is not analog, but like you watched whatever was on television when it was on, and if you missed it, you kind of missed it. Um, and then you watched a show and you had to wait for a week, and then on another Thursday night you watched another episode, and then once the season was over you had to wait for an entire year almost. And I remember the wait, having to wait for the next season of your favorite show or one of your favorite shows. Oh my god, it felt forever. And I know the excitement was there when it came back on about, I don't know, 9-10 months later, but that was also fun. But the fun of now being able to just watch the shows as you please is so much greater than this period when you had to wait for another episode or even another season. So I don't like going back to that situation where you can only watch what's on, sort of. And that's what they're doing a little bit. Yes, you can binge 4 episodes, but then you're left hanging in the middle of the season. So, And it came back on last week, was it? Yes, it was. And I think I watched 2 episodes a day, so it dropped on the 16th. So on the night of the 17th, I was through with the season. I've since obviously rewatched it because after the first 15 minutes, I knew I was going to rewatch it because I didn't have the patience to really go back and rewatch every little thing that I had gotten. Sometimes because of the British accent when they mumbled something and I didn't get it, or sometimes because I knit and didn't always look, but figured, oh man, it's just, the colors are just so pleasing to the eye. Those costumes, oh my goodness. And there's a lot going on in any first episode because so many strings have to be taken back up, and you have to be introduced to the situations that the characters are now in, and so there's a lot of information in that dialogue, so I had to catch that, or just, I mean, if you listen to it twice, you pick up on more things, right? Also, like on more subtleties, and that what's all going on as well, beneath the things that are obviously there. And also, I was just so very excited for it being back that I wanted to watch it a second time. So I have done that, and now I'm waiting and being annoyed that we have to wait. But I want to say, I mean, Colin, and again, if you've been here before, you know that Colin is my favorite character from the show, by far. But I'm not so happy with how he came back. He has obviously slimmed down, I want to say, for this season, and they gave him just a general makeover, and I don't approve. I am not amused because I don't think he needed that. He didn't need that makeover, and I don't know if it's my opinion or other people think alike. Because I have a feeling that people are going to be happy about that makeover, but just I'm not. I think I don't know. It wouldn't have needed. He wouldn't have needed that. I thought I liked him better before. It was. It was a little different from his brothers, just because he was a little bit younger than his two older brothers. But and of course he had to sort of mature and evolve to the point where he could be actually the one thinking about marrying, and then also someone like Penelope. But but I don't know. I'm not really happy with how he comes back. And I mean, obviously, in the beginning when he comes back, and it's so, I felt it was so awkward and a little bit ew when in the debutante scene he just sort of winks at those girls that are on the other side of the aisle. I thought, oh, Colin, don't do it. Oh, you're not doing yourself a favor. It's just not. It's not as cool and slick of a move as you think it is. Um, but at the same time, I mean, obviously, he is supposed to come back and think that he is now fully matured and he's been to Paris and he now is a man of the world and he's become so much more rakish and more sort of, wild, and he knows how dashing he is and blah, blah, blah. But he has to go in that direction in order for Penelope sort of to uh, correct that and show him where he actually wants to go. I get it, but I didn't like it. I thought it was so awkward and also a little bit yucky, and I don't know. I thought, oh, Colin, what are you doing? This is not gonna look good on you. I mean, it's just not. Um, but I often have that with the first two series. No, hold on. The first two episodes of a season of Bridgerton, I'm a little bit at odds, and then I fall into the rhythm, and I certainly enjoyed the next two episodes more. But I think it's supposed to be also very funny, just how he comes back and feels like such a stud. Um, but you know, and it also he prepares the stage for Penelope because he is so much the talk of the town that for her to come down the stairs with her green dress on, it was so gorgeous, and then um, you know be the talk of the town in her own right. It just makes her entrance so much more powerful because people talk about it as much, if not more. Um, so he prepares the stage for her and then recedes back. So I get it. I get the move, but I don't know. I felt a little weird about it. Tell me how you felt about it if you're a Bridgerton person, because if you're not, um, I that's fine, and I apologize for going on tangents. But if you are, let me know how you felt about Colin. He's my favorite character. I mean, I cannot wait for Benedict's turn, but I just love Colin. I always have. From the first season, I thought he was the just the funnest character. But okay. Anyway, and now in the interim, between now and the what is it, June 13th or whatever, when the second part of the season will be on Netflix. I'm not watching, but listening to I think it's Bridgerton original podcast or something like that on Spotify, and it's from that very production. So it's not like an independent podcast and they just love to talk about Bridgerton, but it's somehow tied to Bridgerton directly. But that means they have fun guests on. So they have the actors and actresses on. They have now talked in the first there's only the first episode out for this season, and it's the only episode I've ever listened to. But they have one of the writers on. And they're going to have the actors on, so like Penelope and so Nicola Coughlan or whatever she's called, and or however you pronounce that last name, and Luke Newton. Is it Newton? Well, Colin. Um, and they're going to talk to Shonda. I love Shonda Rhimes. She is so amazing. So yeah, I'm going to keep listening to that until the next 4 episodes come my way, and that is a big obsession of mine, and it's really kept me. I want to say focused over the last week. That was, like I said, really quite challenging, and it's given me such joy just being able to revisit those characters. So yeah, that's what I've been doing. And my other current obsession is to do with the Gilmore Girls, because I discovered, and so okay, this is the story. I I I punched in my what's it called, Spotify search, Jared Padalecki, because I wanted to listen to an interview with him. Just like any interview, I thought there was going to be an interview up there on Spotify and some podcast. As you do, I went looking for Jared Padalecki, and that is Dean in the Gilmore Girls. And I found an interview with him. Oops. Yeah, that's what happens with my yarn necklace, that it gets tangled in my hair. But it doesn't bother me at all. Whereas this tiny yarn ball, that would annoy me. Anyway, I've said that. You got it. So yeah, Jared Padalecki, and I found an interview with him on the I Am All In podcast on iHeartRadio, which I'd never heard of before. I'm assuming it's an American thing, an American Spotify. I don't know. And maybe it's a European thing, or it's having lived under a rock kind of thing, but I had never heard of iHeartRadio. But I figure there are a lot of podcasts on there, right? So that podcast is on there as well. And maybe you've heard of it before, and I'm telling you old news, in which case, sorry, but maybe you haven't. It's a podcast that is hosted by Scott Patterson, who's Luke on the show, on the Gilmore Girls. And he has, I think, 4 ladies there in his team with him, and some parts of the show they do together, and others he does himself on his own. And he interviews people from the show, interviews that are sometimes very interesting. It can be people on screen and also off screen. So I found it so interesting when he had the dialogue coach on. That was so fun. So the idea is that Scott Patterson, so Luke, he has never watched Gilmore Girls, and I think Gilmore Girls first aired in 2001. So in 2021, it would have been 20 years, since the first air date. And he took that as an incentive to watch the Gilmore Girls and, talk the audience through every show as he experiences it for the first time. And okay, he watches show by show, so episode for episode, and then has a corresponding podcast episode out, sometimes more than one for every Gilmore Girls episode. And that is very fun, and he is hilarious. I mean, in the first episode, Max Medina enters the stage pretty fast, right? And then he leaves, and he comes back, and Luke isn't happy about it, and neither is Scott, let me tell you, because maybe this is old news again, but if you have listened to it, and you're a Gilmore Girls person, then you really do, you'll be doing yourself a favor, because he goes on such fun rants about Max Medina, and he isn't all wrong. I saw it differently before, but he isn't all wrong, and it's a blend of Scott and Luke, ranting there and being jealous. He's jealous like Luke would be, but but also makes statements to Scott. It's so fun. It's really fun. He's hilarious, and it's a very fun podcast. Now, and then I'm also kind of sort of rewatching episodes, the corresponding episodes, not everyone, and I've watched the Gilmore Girls so many times that I know what they're referring back to, but it's fun rewatching some of the episodes when I can. When I can make time for it, that is. keeping in mind the things that they will talk about on the show. So that is very fun. And if you haven't ever given that a listen, this is really a recommendation. I mean, Scott seems to be such a fun guy, and it's so fun to see him or to hear him be protective of that show, which is why he goes on those rants, and to also just love it so much. He really enjoys the show, and he really enjoys having old colleagues on, and also people that worked in the production of that show, or just somewhere behind the camera, and also the stories that he tells from shooting and their routines and their work days and all of that good stuff. So it is really fun. It's a really fun podcast, and I've been listening to it a lot when I did housework, when I ran errands, when I worked in the garden, when I had to cook, and so on. So, yeah, very fun. A big recommendation, and yeah, that is my other current obsession, is the I Am All In podcast. And that already wraps it up for today. I don't have anything more to share with you other than just thank you for hanging with me and checking out this podcast or coming back to it. If you want to support this podcast, the easiest way would be to just take a screenshot and post it on your Instagram and just let people know that you're watching the podcast, because that is how I often find new podcasts. So if you want to do that, that'd be helpful. You can obviously like and subscribe. My Ko-fi page is linked down below, and the coolest thing would be if you just came back for another video. So yeah, and leave a comment about Colin if you want to, because that would be so interesting. I really want to know what other people think of like how he has evolved and how he presents himself to the ton in this new season, and how he goes back to feeling a little bit more insecure as he feels more and more strongly about Penelope. So yeah, I'm excited and seeing where it goes. And if you're too and you feel like leaving a comment, that'd be so cool. So I'll talk to you next in about a week's time. And I can only say take care, happy knitting, and I'll see you soon. Bye.